Yes, I can. The National Council of States is an organ of the Nigerian government. Its functions include advising the executive on policy making. The council has no executive power, however, plays an important role of advising and consent role in government operations. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu chaired its Meetin Council of State meeting, where they deliberated on the outcome of the protests, what the government is doing to address the issues raised, economic situation of the country, food security, and policies being put in place. They also reiterated the need to keep Nigerians abreast with government policies and programs to tackle challenges affecting Nigerians, to avert a repeat of the protests and ensure Nigerians are carried along. The Council of State meeting passed a vote of confidence on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his administration to take Nigeria to the promised land. The program will focus on the outcome of the Council of States meeting and how it will impact on Nigerians. Welcome to Nigeria Today. I am Ikaria Clinton, and thanks for joining us. And to discuss this, I have with me in the studio Ahmed Sajo. He's a public affairs analyst. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's good to be here.
It's always a delight to have you around. You know that. Now, joining us via Zoom is Dr. Abdulrahman Abu Hamisu. He's a political economist and public affairs analyst. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I'll start with you, Sajo. Now, to start with, how apt is the Meetin Council of State meeting led by President Tinubu?
Well, thank you very much, and thank you also for letting me have a glimpse of my brother Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu. I've not seen him for a long time, so I'm glad. I think let's look at it very honestly, because the Council of State involves elder statesmen and all the state governors. I think this is the most opportune moment when we should hold a Council of State meetings. You see, in the wake of the protest and after the protest, one of the things that came out was a lot of discussion in the public space about roles and functions of the federal government and the subnational governments in addressing the economic situations of the citizens, the policy thrust of the different levels of government, and how that could impact on the people. So, and because the voices were too discordant, and it reached a point where the federal government will announce that we did this, and the state governments will say we've not received it from our own end, and it was actually beginning to erode confidence in the governance system among the citizens. And this is a wrong time for citizens to begin to feel that they can not trust the leadership, because when you are in a situation that we are in, and when you pass through the kind of upheavals that we passed through the first few days of August, it is absolutely necessary that the leadership of the country at all levels, at national level, at subnational level, and at community levels, talking about individuals with very strong voices that are part of the National Council of State, that it's time that they all came together and spoke to issues in such a manner as to create a unified system within the country. So within that context, I think this is the most opportune moment. And then within the context of, also accepting the leadership of the president and endorsing the actions he has taken to lead Nigeria to the promised land, I think I also want to say that is very good for us at this point in time, considering the direction we are moving. But whether they discussed real issues that would ameliorate the situation is something else. And I believe they must have, because, and I will tell you this, that the federal government, for example, may have very good policies on agriculture, but they are just policies that cannot be implemented by the federal government. It is essential for for the subnational entities, the state government, to come in, because they own the land. They are closer to the people. They are the ones that should be able to ginger, their citizens to be productive in that area. Another area that I hope the National Council of States would have actually delineated responsibilities and ensured that there is harmony in the manner it's executed is in the social intervention programs. No matter how much the federal government wants to carry on a social intervention program, if they do not have the buy-in of the subnationals, where the people actually reside, and the people that you remember, you never carry the indigene certificate of Nigeria. You carry the indigene certificate of your local government, meaning that's where
I'll have to stop you. I'll stop you here. I know we'll come back to some of the issues you're raising right now. But I want Dr. Abdulrahman Buhamisu to come in here. Now, Doc, now tell us, how important is the input of these prominent figures that are talking about the elder statesmen, the former heads of state, former presidents, and of course governors coming together in the Council of State. How important is their input in the affairs of the country, especially this critical time we are faced with?
Well, I won't attach much importance to their input, in as much as the government of the day is not willing to work with their input. Their input will carry weight as former presidents who have been there before, who understood the terrain, despite the changing dynamics and the international politics that usually intersect our local politics, thereby tilting it away from what was known previously to a new horizon that is always challenging. So if the government is consulting them in good faith and is willing to tap from the wealth of their experience, that is going to be wonderful, and it will make impact as they go ahead with what they think can really solve most of the problems. But if it is convened to pass a vote of confidence on the president, a vote of confidence has been passed on the president, and that ends it. So between the people that have passed a vote of no confidence on the president and the few former presidents that have come to pass a vote of confidence on him, we will see who will carry the day. Remember the fact that in northern Nigeria.
Okay, it's like we've lost him here. Now we'll get back to him when the network issues improve. Now back to you, Sergio. You talked about the confidence of the people, how important it is for the people to have confidence and trust in the leadership. Now, and the Council of State today passed a vote of confidence on the president. How significant is this?
Well, the significance is that it means everything we've been hearing about this agreements between the states and the federal government with respect to whether federal government had given them some amount of money to ameliorate the sorry situation we are in, or whether they have sent in some rice or some other commodities to, augment the sufferings and difficulties of the people. Whether they did or they did not, all these narratives within the public space should have died by this vote of confidence. And the second thing is that what I believe would have led to the vote of confidence is that, quite definitely, the president of the country, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, would have laid out his plans and programs. He did it in his speech, but I'm sure, talking to stakeholders in the project of Nigeria, in the governance project of Nigeria, talking to his peers, the stakeholders, the people that he's supposed to work with to run the country together. I'm sure talking to them, he may have given them a lot more details, including, of course, possible outcomes for what policy issues will be injected in the public space. So I'm sure the vote of confidence may have come from their own understanding of the steps President Bola Tinubu is taking, to address the economic situation in the country. And I'm also sure that because, of course, they are the ones that are charged with the responsibility of running, governance at certain level, and for also those that knew exactly what really went wrong in running the nation, talking about the former leadership of this country, those who understand the situation based on their institutional memories of what happened in that office. If all of them sit down and they read the presentations of the president and they feel that those presentations are sufficient enough to pull us out of the economic quagmire we are in, and believing in the fact that what they have been presented with is quite positive and could lead us to the direction that we want to be led, and on the basis of that, they pass a vote of confidence, I think that is very reassuring. But, beyond passing a vote of confidence, except maybe for the former presidents and the chief justices and the rest, whose role is just to advise the current leaders and inform them of the pitfalls that they either fell into or avoided in the past, so they don't fall into the same pitfalls. I think the governors, being members of the National Council of States, should also accept that, look, the policies and programs outlined by Bola Ahmed Tinubu is something worth copying, is something worth riding on with, and is something that could pull the nation out of the woods. This is not a time for us to have divisions, either political, like we have different parties, or we are operating at different levels. This is a time when we have to unify our efforts to make sure that we pull our citizens out of the situation we all find ourselves in.
Okay, Dr. Hamisu, I don't know if you're there now. I know you were saying it goes beyond, just having the meeting, but of course listening and implementing whatever advice they've given. So what are your expectations from this meeting? What do you expect to see?
What I expect to see is to address the concerns of the citizens, especially in the area of food security. You cannot talk about food security without talking about security in the food basket of the nation areas. What I mean by food basket of the nation areas include the North Central, the Northwest, and the Northeast. These are traditional areas that have always provided the much needed food in this nation. And these areas have been overtaken by security challenges in the form of farmer-others conflict, banditry, kidnapping for ransom, and so on and so forth, which is preventing farmers.
Okay, we lost him there again. Still a little bit of network issues. Now back to you, Sergio. What do you expect to see?
No, I think Dr. Abu Hamisu had already, started a trajectory of telling you what should be. The first thing that they should do, all of them, is to agree that the insecurity, whether it is insurgency, whether it is banditry, whether it is kidnapping for ransom, or clash between farmers and herders, or between constituent groups within this, those aspects must be addressed frontally and must be addressed jointly. The federal government and the subnational government must come together to say, look, we are going to end insecurity. And then when they do that, they should also be mindful of the fact that, our population has grown. Don't forget, Eukarya, that the land area upon which we farm has not changed. In fact, if for anything, it has shrunk because we're now building cities, we're building infrastructure on the plots of land. If years ago, this place where we are was somebody's farm, the whole of Abuja was farmland except for small settlement. And it's the same thing in our states, state capitals, new settlement, new cities, so the land available, arable land available for people to farm had reduced. Our population has grown. So if in the past we were relying on rain-fed agriculture to feed ourselves, the truth about it is that rain-fed agriculture cannot feed us now. We need to come up with plans to begin to go into food production as an all year round activity.
Okay, I will have to stop you there. So I will bring in Dr. Hamisu. Dr. Hamisu is back there now. I know you were talking about what your expectations are, of course. But then one of the issues that the Council of States also harped on was the need for Nigerians to be kept abreast of the policies and programs of Nigeria, for them to be carried along. How important or how necessary do you think this is?
You see, my older brother, Sajo, seated right before you, will attest to this fact. Keeping Nigerians abreast without fact that impact them directly is not going to lead to anywhere. When you are communicating, your communication strategy must connect with the people's reality. When you're telling the people that we are doing all it takes to ensure that you are not hungry, and then inflation continue to bite harder, it means you're not communicating. It means government is not doing the right thing. So your communication must be filled with fact and figures that speak to the daily realities of the people. So the era of wait till eternity before you continue to enjoy the dividends of democracy, or before you get the result you are asking for, is over. A Rubicon has been crossed to the extent that most of the gatekeepers became the target of the protest. You remember when a young man said even the ulamas that are saying protesting is forbidden in Islam should be dragged down the pulpit. That is how far the anger has really surged. So what I'm saying here is this. You cannot say that Nigeria should be kept abreast by releasing press releases that do not tell them that inflation is reducing, that Dangote Chemicals is now on board, that we can get farm input cheaper in Nigeria for farmers to farm, and that insecurity has reduced, and people could feel that insecurity has reduced, and that wherever government is saying that they are channeling support to the people will actually see it. What has been happening across Nigeria is the abuse of what is meant for the masses. What can easily be diverted in Nigeria is fertilizer. What can be easily diverted is a cash transfer to the people. So government must put in place a mechanism that will check and checkmate those that are charged with the responsibility of delivering service to the people, especially as it relates to.
Okay, you made quite a lot of points there. Now, even during the meeting, they also they reviewed policies and programs of government aimed at tackling challenges confronting the country. Like you rightly mentioned earlier, the issue of food security and, of course, other issues. Now, speak to us about some of these issues, Sergio, and what you think will be, what Nigerians will be looking forward to.
Honestly, there are things Nigerians are looking forward to. Number one is that the cost of goods and services must come down. No matter what policy you tell a person, if he cannot go to the market and buy food and come home and eat, he will not understand your policy. Policies for ordinary people are not academic exercises. So any policy you're talking of must trickle down to the people within the context of their existing reality. And the context of their existing reality is that there is shortage of food, there is hunger, their incomes are shrinking, disposable incomes in their hands are eroding, and their expectations are getting, increasingly, more and more, increasing every day for them, to survive. So, and then secondly, no matter how you communicate your policies to the people, no matter how much you want people to sacrifice and understand with you as a government, the lifestyles of the drivers of the government must be in tandem with the policies the government is talking about. A lot of times, the gap, the trust deficit that exists between the government and the governed is found within the realm of the difference between the pronouncements of government and the apparent, practical exhibition of what government does or government people do, so or government drivers do. So what we want to see is that first, these policies should be communicated to the people through their day-to-day existence. And then secondly, the government itself, the drivers of government, members of the executive, members of the legislature, members of the judiciary, the state governors, their own executive, their own legislature, they must begin to be more modest. They must begin to be more empathetic to the ordinary people, and they must begin to understand that the people are. Then the other thing is what Abu Hamisu had said. The template for measuring our service delivery must be rejigged in such a way that when we claim to deliver a service, a particular service, let us be sure that it has been delivered. When you say you are doing conditional cash transfer, we don't want to hear only from government. We want to hear from beneficiaries.
Okay.
When you are distributing fertilizer, we don't want to hear from government alone. We want to hear from the recipients. When the president says there are 1 million naira given to business startups, we want to know which are the business startups. Let the owners of this business startup come out and tell us that, yes, we have received this money, and in the process we have started a business. That business has employed 2 people. By the time we get 1,000 business startups that have employed 2 people, we now know that we have reduced unemployment in Nigeria by 2,000 people. We can run with such statistics.
Thank you very much. Now, Dr. Abu Hamisu, quite a lot of issues were raised during this meeting, talking about review of policies, like I earlier asked, and of course they talked about food security and quite a lot of, and of course, like I asked you, communicating the programs and policies of the government to the people carrying Nigerians along. Now, what opportunities or challenges lie ahead for Nigerians, following the conclusions of this meeting?
You see, I want to tell Mr. President and those around him that the world is a global village. and that whatever we're doing here and whatever is happening elsewhere is being broadcast live into people's handsets. Gone are the days that information can be censored and nothing will happen. Just before we went into protest, it was announced that the Nigerian junta had reduced pump price of fuel at a time that the federal government of Nigeria is telling Nigerians that it cannot reduce the pump price of fuel, that we have to bear it much longer. So what I'm saying in essence is this, that the people that protested and those that we protest are still waiting, and they want to see the action of government, and that the action of government will determine whether they will rescind their decision to protest or not to protest. And we can do that, as my other brother said, by winning back the confidence of the people. And the way to win back the confidence of the people is not empty promises and by issuing statements that we just say we're on top of the situation. People want to see their life improved. They want to see rents coming down. They want to see school fees coming down. They want to see transportation coming down. You see, I give you an instance. When you produce tomatoes in Jos, let's say it costs you 20 to 30,000 to produce a basket of tomatoes. To get it to Lagos, you have to pay up to say 50,000. And by the time you get to Lagos, you are talking about 120,000 naira for a basket of tomatoes in the same country. And it's not as if we're importing tomatoes from Belarus. So the other issue that government need to look into is our mode of transportation. And this is why the issue of pump price is very key. No matter how cheap you are able to produce farm produce, once you cannot get it from the destination it is produced to another destination.
Thank you very much, Doc. Thank you very much, Doc. And Doc, we do not want another protest. And of course, that is why this meeting is being held, so that a lot of issues will be addressed and will not have a repeat of the protest. Well, with that, we draw the curtain of today's episode of Nigeria Today. A very big thank you to Ahmad Sajo, a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution.
Grateful.
And also Dr. Abdulrahman Abu Hamisu, a political economist and a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being part of the program. I am Ikaria Clinton. Goodbye.